They say Ekon village had long forgotten its gods. Once the people there danced with the spirits. They poured palm wine for the ancestors, sang into the night, and knew that every tree and every river carried a name. But over time, the sacred drums that once called the sky to pour rain or calmed angry winds were silenced, buried, hidden. And in the very center of that silence was a boy named Obina. He was 12, skin like roasted shea, eyes full of questions, and the kind of curiosity that got children warned or whipped. He lived with his grandfather, Baba Ngem, a bent old man with a voice like gravel and fingers that trembled with every tale he told. Some said Baba Ngem was mad. Others whispered he remembered too much. But Obina loved the stories, and one story he was never allowed to hear was the story of the forbidden drum. It began one Harmattan afternoon when the wind carried a strange scent, smoke, earth, and something older. Obina was digging behind Baba Nkem's hut, chasing a rabbit that had slipped into a burrow. That's when his hand hit something. Hard, wooden, round. Curious, he cleared the dirt and unearthed an old drum. Not the kind used at weddings or festivals. This one was darker, older. The leather was cracked, the carvings almost erased by time. But Obina felt it, a pulse, like it was breathing. He dragged it out with effort. Dust swirled. The air grew still. As he stood there staring at it, Baba Nkem appeared in the doorway. And for the first time in his life, Obina saw fear in the old man's eyes. "Put it back," Baba Nkem rasped. "But it's just a drum. I said put it back." His voice shook the wind. Birds fled from the trees. Obina flinched, but something in that drum called him. That night, while Baba Nkem snored under his wrapper, Obina crept out. He lit a small lamp, sat before the drum, and struck it once. Doom! The sound rolled out, deep and haunting. Not loud, but powerful. The flame of his lamp flickered blue. The shadows around him stretched like they were alive. He struck it again. Doom! Doom! Then, silence, until he heard it. A whisper, from the bush. "Obina!" He dropped the drum and turned. Nothing, just darkness, thick and watching. The next morning, strange things began to happen. The goats refused to eat. Chickens circled the herd backwards. The river's water had turned slightly red at dawn. Villagers murmured, blaming spirits, cursing omens. Baba Nkem knew. "You played it, didn't you?" he asked without turning. Obina swallowed. "What is it?" Baba sat him down, lit his pipe, and for the first time, told the story no child had heard in 50 years. Long ago, before the white man came with railroads and Bibles, Ekon had a drum called Ikoro Oba, the drum of the king spirits. It was said to be carved from the tree where lightning first struck the earth, played only by the high priest when danger threatened the village. But one night, a greedy warlord named Okamiri took the drum. He wanted to summon the spirits, not to protect the village, but to bind them to his will. He played it at midnight. The skies split. Rain fell upwards. The ancestors rose, angry. By morning, Ekon was nearly wiped from the map. Only a few elders survived, including Baba Nkem's father. They buried the drum and swore never to speak of it again. "But the drum remembers," Baba Nkem whispered, "and it has a long memory." Obina stared at his grandfather. "Then why didn't you burn it?" "Because some things cannot be destroyed, only hidden." That night Baba Nkem tried to rebury it, but the hole kept filling back up. No matter how much he dug, even the soil refused. And then, the drumming started again, except no one was playing. Doom, doom, doom. Every night, exactly at midnight, the drum would sound, softly, like a heartbeat beneath the earth. The villagers began hearing it in their dreams. Children woke crying. Old women wailed without knowing why. Obina knew then. He had awakened something. And deep in the forest beyond Ekon, where no foot dares wander after dusk, something else stirs. Listening, watching, waiting. The drum has been played, and it demands to be heard. That night, Obina couldn't sleep. Not because he was afraid, though he was, but because the sound of the drum had changed. It no longer beat like a call. Now it was a rhythm, a message, slow, deliberate, like it was speaking to him in a language only his blood could understand. Doom, 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 doom. And somehow he knew the drum was not just waking, it was remembering. Babonkom was already up before dawn, eyes red from lack of sleep. He placed cowrie shells at every corner of the hut, sprinkled camwood powder on the threshold, and chewed bitter cola as he muttered forgotten prayers. "We have to leave," he said. "To where?" Obina asked. "Anywhere the drum cannot follow." But deep down, they both knew it would follow, because it wasn't the drum that moved. It was the spirit inside it, and now it had Obina's name. They tried, anyway. Packed a sack of dried gari, smoked fish, and water. At sunrise, they crossed the footbridge at the edge of the village, heading east toward the next town. But with every step, the world around them changed. Birds flew backwards. Shadows didn't match the direction of the sun. And the path, straight and familiar, kept turning back toward Ekon. It was Baba and Kem who realized it first. The land, it won't let us go. That's when the fog came. Thick, white, silent. It rolled in so fast, it swallowed the trees. The world shrunk to 10 steps in every direction. Then the voices began, low, whispering, calling Obina's name, not from one direction, but from all of them. Obina, Obina. He turned in circles, heart pounding. Grandpa? But Babonkom wasn't there. He had vanished. Obina screamed. No answer. Just fog. And the slow, steady doom. Doom. Doom of the drum. Closer now. Clearer. He ran. Branches whipped at his legs. Stones caught his feet. He didn't know where he was going, only that he had to get away. From the sound. From the voices. From the thing that now followed him like a shadow with no source. He tripped, fell into a clearing, and there it was. The drum. Not buried, not hidden, but sitting on a tree stump, like it had been waiting for him all along. The leather gleamed with moisture, though no rain had fallen. The carvings, once faded, now pulsed with light, like veins under skin. He should have run, but he stepped forward, because he understood now. It didn't want to harm him. It wanted him to listen. When he touched it, the world went silent. No birds, no wind, not even his own breath. Then, visions, flashes, the past. A tall man in leopard skin, robes, Okemiri, lifting the drum above his head. Fire raining from the sky. Women screaming. Children vanishing in smoke. Then the ancestors, tall, cloaked in bones and light, stepping from the shadows of the spirit world, mouths wide with rage. One of them looked at Obina directly. "You called us," the spirit said. "You must now finish what was begun." Obina woke in the dirt, gasping. The drum was gone. So was the fog. He was back, in Ekon, and Babonkem was standing over him. "Now you understand," the old man said quietly. "It didn't choose you by accident. What does it want from me?" To remember. To remember what? That this land was never silent, that the ancestors do not sleep, and that some drums were never meant to be silenced. That evening, the village square filled for the first time in decades. Not for a festival, not for mourning, but for truth. Babankem stood before the crowd, holding a staff carved with the marks of the old ways, and beside him, Obina, the boy who had awakened the drum. He told them what he saw, what he heard, what the ancestors said. Some villagers wept, others turned away, afraid. But one thing was clear, the drum was returning, and when the moon reached its highest point in the sky, it did. Doom! The sound echoed from the forest. Doom! Doom! This time louder, and it was not alone. From the dark, old figures stepped into the firelight. Men and women long thought dead, spirits of the forgotten, dancers of the old gods. They came with painted faces and wide eyes, moving to a rhythm older than time, and standing at the center of them, the drum, alive. The ancestors have been called. The village will remember, and Obina is no longer just a boy. He is now the keeper of a power the world tried to forget. But the drums do not forget, and neither do the spirits. Obina stood still. The crowd behind him trembled. Some held onto each other. Others whispered prayers too old to remember their meaning. Before him, the spirit stood, tall, shimmering, neither flesh nor smoke. Faces painted with white clay, eyes that saw through time. And at the center, the Ikoro Oba, the forbidden drum. Its surface now glowed like embers beneath skin, veins of red light coursing through its body. The lead spirit stepped forward, cloaked in feathers and ash. Its voice was not a whisper, but a thunder buried in silence. You woke us. Obina's lips quivered. I didn't mean to, but you did, and now you must choose. Choose what? To bind the village, or to break it? The villagers gasped. Babankem stepped forward, leaning heavily on his staff. What do you mean by break? The spirit turned to him. Ekon once walked with the spirits, but you turned your backs. You buried the old ways beneath cement and silence. And now, the land suffers. One of the spirits touched the ground. The earth cracked open, briefly, revealing dry soil and withered roots. Then it closed again. You forgot your offerings, the spirit said. You forgot your songs, and in doing so, you forgot us. The wind howled through the trees. The flames bent inward. The air grew thick with memory. Obina looked around. He saw his people, their fear, their guilt, their pride, and he saw their need, not just for survival, but for connection, for the rhythm that used to guide them, for the wisdom they traded for coins, for the ancestors whose names were now only whispered in shame. Obina turned to the spirit. What happens if I bind the village again? You become the vessel, it said, the keeper of the drum. Your voice will carry our song. Your body will bear the burden of memory, and your life will no longer be yours alone. And if I don't, the spirit stepped back, and the trees began to wither. Birds fell from the sky, like feathers cut from invisible wings. The river darkened. The wind stopped. The future of Ekon flickered before them. A forgotten place, hollow and cursed. Obina closed his eyes. He was just a boy. He wanted to climb trees, to chase rabbits, to laugh. But deep inside, he knew he had been chosen. And sometimes, the gods don't choose the strongest. They choose the ones who listen. He stepped toward the drum, laid his palm on its surface. It was warm, alive, beating. He raised his other hand, and without thinking, began to play. Doom, 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 doom. The rhythm came not from memory, but from inside him, a song his spirit already knew. The fire rose high. The spirits began to dance, not in rage, but in celebration. 1,000 feet, moving in perfect rhythm. Old women in the crowd cried. Young boys stood tall with pride. And Baba Nkem, eyes glistening, whispered, "It has returned. The old ways, the song, the soul of Ekon." From that night on, Obina became more than a boy. He was called Ojinioba, the voice of the drum. He didn't speak much anymore, but when he did, people listened. He played only when needed, when a child was born, when a storm approached, when a loved one passed, and every time he played, the drum answered. The land healed. The rains came when they were supposed to. The people remembered who they were. And their ancestors, they watched, not from above, but from the drum itself, waiting, listening. And so, in the heart of Africa, in a village nearly lost to time, a boy chose memory over silence, rhythm over ruin, because the drum was never just an instrument, it was a voice, and Obina became its echo.